Yo, what is up guys, it's Pedro here, and in today's video I'll be bringing you guys my second mock draft of the off season, and this one will be a trade back mock draft. So this is the first mock draft I'm doing in free agency, or after free agency, and we're going to try to do a trade back mock draft because I think that's a very realistic scenario for the Washington Commanders, going from 16 to somewhere in the 20s and getting some assets to, maybe get a second round pick or a third round pick, something like that. So the Chargers proposed us a trade, and originally it was 16 for 21 and 54. And obviously the Commanders would accept that, but I didn't think that was fair. So I'm just trying to make it a little bit more realistic where, they would get something else. Still probably not too fair. And then going back to the sim, yes, Devin Witherspoon's there. And if he was there in real life at 16, I would absolutely take him and not look back. And same thing with Peter Skrnowski. But I just don't think that's going to happen. And I want to make this at least somewhat realistic. So that's why I'm not taking him at 16. But just keep in mind, don't freak out. If you saw him on the board at 16, if he was there and I wasn't doing a trade back mock draft, I would absolutely take him at 16, 100%. Okay, so now that we traded back, which again, I'm doing this because I do think it is a realistic possibility where I feel like the Commanders at 16 probably taking an O-lineman, maybe a cornerback, preferably a cornerback. But if the top guys are off the board, like, Christian Gonzalez, Devin Witherspoon, even Joey Porter. I like Joey Porter, but I don't know if he fits what the Commanders want, which, they like, zone corners more than man guys. So that's something. Also, tackle is a possibility. But now you have Charles Leno, who is on the books for a decent amount, and you just signed Andrew Wiley to right tackle, and you told Cosme you're moving him inside. I don't know if you're still going to want to, draft a tackle. I still wouldn't be upset if they did, because tackle is a very important position. That's why, I would have liked it if we signed Andrew Wiley to be our guard, but it is what it is. We could have had Andrew Wiley as our right guard, Sam Cosme as our left guard, and drafted a potential starting right tackle, but it is what it is. So I think right here the pick is probably cornerback. You could go Brian Branch, who might be a Buffalo nickel slot guy. You could go Kelee Ringo out of Georgia, cornerback, who is, again, if we trade back, he's going to be in this range. Deonte Banks, another really solid option for the Commanders. So those are kind of the guys I'm, thinking about. Deonte Banks, Kelee Ringo, or Brian Branch, and maybe even Dalton Kincaid a little bit, and Michael Mayer. They're all ranked pretty similarly, and again, my rankings are a little bit different than their rankings right here. I'm going to go ahead and take cornerback out of Maryland, Deonte Banks, just to switch it up a little bit. Haven't mocked him at all, so I'm going to go there. And let's talk about Deonte Banks a little bit. So about 6 foot, 197 pounds. Hometown is Baltimore, and had a great combine, 4.35 40-yard dash. You can see the split there, a 42-inch vertical jump, and the broad jump is insane as well. The stats there are amazing. So overview: perimeter corner with desired blend of size, strength, and athleticism. Is capable of release disruption from press. He plays with smooth hips and easy feet to pedal and glide through the field. He's capable of matching the release and running with his opponent. However, he struggles to play with poise and awareness. You guys can see some of the rest there. Some strengths: experience in a wide variety of coverages, outstanding size and length as outside corner, lateral slide to mirror and slow the release. And there's some other things as well. Again, very, very athletic. And yeah, weaknesses: let's see, gets crossed up by hard route runners or route stems, doesn't play with confidence when back is to the ball, panics when scrambling to get back to play after falling behind. So a lot of that stuff, we'll get into it more when we actually draft them. But right now, just to give you guys an overview of him. Sources tell us he's one of my favorite cornerbacks I've studied. He's going to be a really good pro. Area scout for NFC team. Hey, maybe it's a Commander scout, but those are kind of his measurables and some information on him, some stats. Played for Maryland all 4 years, and this past year had 8 pass breakups, half a sack, and an interception. So the ball production isn't quite there in terms of interceptions. Only 2 interceptions in 4 years is a little bit concerning for me, but I think his athleticism in terms of speed and vertical jump he'll get there in terms of that, those interceptions. And he got a decent amount of pass breakups, and I'm sure the Maryland fans know more than me. And other cornerback options, again, if we trade back, Keely Ringo, you got, of course, Deontay Banks. Emmanuel Forbes is a sleeper. I think we're at 21. If we trade back 5 spots, I think that's a little too early for, him. But if we trade back to the late first round, or if we somehow get an early second round pick, I think Emmanuel Forbes would be a really, really good cornerback, because that ball production is absolutely amazing. I think most pick sixes in college football history. So that's our first round pick, Deontay Banks, and they have him on ESPN at 6'2", but he got measured at the combine about 6 foot. So it doesn't really matter. 6 foot is solid for an NFL cornerback, and when you have a 42-inch vertical, that makes up for it. That makes up for it. Okay, so now with our second round pick, for me, this is difficult, and again, I'm trying to make this realistic. So, like, some of these guys, I know Zay Flowers is not going to be here at 47. And if he's there, maybe the Commanders take him because that talent is way too good to pass up. But he's not going to be there. Same thing with Isaiah Foskey out of Notre Dame. And what's his name? There's someone else I'm going to talk about in a second that I don't think is going to be there. But they have him ranked way lower. So some options here for the Commanders. John Michael Schmitz, offensive center / guard out of Minnesota, offensive lineman. Then you got Drew Sanders, linebacker out of Arkansas, and you got tight end Luke Musgrave out of Oregon State. And you got some other guys like Clark Phillips, DJ Turner. I believe Emmanuel Forbes is still there. Not sure if that's going to be the case. But for me, I really want to go linebacker because I think we need help there. But I do think it would be better to sign a guy and then maybe draft a guy in the 3rd or 4th round as a developmental guy. But second round might be a little too early. But if you really like a guy, I'm 100% fine taking a guy in the second. I still think, though, after the draft, they need to add a solid veteran to that group. And then Luke Musgrave, I really am intrigued by him, but I'm going to go a different direction. I'm going to go John Michael Schmitz, guard / center out of Minnesota, and we look at him. There's also Joe Tippmann. I think he's going to go in the late first, early second. We're mid-second, so if he was there, I would take him over John Michael Schmitz, but he's not. So I'm going to go ahead and take John Michael Schmitz, who's an interior offensive lineman. So let's say we keep Chase Roulier. Okay, you can probably start John Michael Schmitz at left guard. If you don't keep him, Chase Roulier, you can probably start John Michael Schmitz at center in his rookie year. And that, if you draft him, maybe that's what happens. So I'm going to go ahead and draft him. And let's go see what Daniel Jeremiah says about him. He says, Schmitz is a strong, tough, and reliable center prospect out of Minnesota. In the pass game, he plays with knee bend, balance, and awareness. He uses his inside hand as an underhook to latch and control blockers. He is rarely out of position or driven back. In the run game, he can latch, sink his weight, and create movement. He is under control, working up to the second level. He lacks elite quickness and change of direction in space, but he's functional. Sources at the school rave about his leadership. Overall, Schmitz should be a quality starting center as soon as he enters the league. And if you tell me I'm getting a good to great starting center in the middle of the second round, I'm 100% taking that. That's an important position, and we've had injury troubles there the last couple years, so bringing someone there, that's an upgrade at offensive line. And even if you're bringing back Chase Roulier, a lot of these centers can play guards, and he can play guard until Roulier is done, if he is ever done in the next few years. So that's a pick I like there. And there were some other options like Drew Sanders or Luke Musgrave, but decided to go offense, and because the defense is already in a really good spot, so we went defense first round, so I think you got to add a little bit more to the offense, and offensive line is the weakness of this team, so added John Michael Schmitz in the second. And man, with our next pick, which is the second round pick from the Chargers for the trade back, again, we lost our 4th round pick. I still don't know if that would be enough for the Chargers to make the move, but I try to make it as realistic as possible. The PFF site is a little bit better in terms of trades, but you have to pay for that now. Zay Flowers still there, again, not happening. D tackle, no. D end is something that could happen, guys, in the 3rd or 4th round, because Chase and Montez are only, Montez is only under contract for this year, and if Chase Young if his fifth-year option isn't picked up, the same thing for him, which is absolutely crazy to think about. So here, the option I wanted is here, Luke Musgrave, tight end out of Oregon State. I think it helps out the offense. You want to help out your young QB, give him weapons, and you already have weapons at receiver, and you got some good running backs. Add Luke Musgrave, and that makes it even better. So this is a one that's debatable if he's going to be there at that point. Daniel Jeremiah has him as the 43rd ranked player in the class. He says Musgrave is a tall, muscular tight end with elite play speed. Unfortunately, he missed all but 2 games of the 2022 season due to injury. He's sudden in his release and is a weapon running down the seam. He pulls away from second-level defenders and can naturally high-point the football. He's more of a home run hitter than an option route player at this point in his development. He is consistent catching balls in his frame, but struggles to reel in low passes on the move. And there's some other things as well. Haven't watched any film on Luke Musgrave, but I wanted to watch some just highlights on all these tight ends. And the guys that really stood out to me, the guy that stood out to me was Dalton Kincaid because of his yards after the catch ability. I like guys that can break tackles and break away from guys with their speed. And Michael Mayer, I didn't really see that in him, and he has other options, other aspects of his game that are better than Kincaid, like his blocking. And Luke Musgrave, I really didn't see much yards after the catch, honestly. Like, he went down pretty easily. Like, his speed sometimes allowed him to get some yards after the catch, but like Darnell Washington got way more yards after the catch than him, in my opinion, and same thing with Dalton Kincaid. So that's the only thing I didn't really like about him. And this is good value where the Commanders are picking him, so I probably still would pick him. But that is just something to keep in mind. He also only played 2 games this past season, and his production is not great. You look at his production, 18 yards freshman year. I mean, that's understandable. Then 142 yards in his sophomore season, then 300 yards in his junior season, and then 169 yards in his senior year, which is good because he only played in 2 games. But the quarterback situation wasn't great in Oregon State or at Oregon State, but still would like to see better production. But he's got good measurables, 4.6 40-yard dash. I think his vertical jump's like 36, which is good for his size. I mean, he's 6'6", 250 pounds. From Bend, Oregon. Shout out Bend. And yes, he would be a good pick for the Commanders, I believe, in the second round. A little mid to late second round pick for the Commanders. And you add him to the weapons you already have in, Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, Gibson, Robinson. You add in Luke Musgrave, and maybe one of those other younger tight ends steps up. I'm feeling good about that room for sure. Okay, so this is going to be our 3rd round pick. I'm doing the first 3 rounds of the draft. Forgot to say that earlier in the video, just because I want to be able to go a little bit more in depth. And we're still a month away from the draft, so not familiar with a lot of the 6th, 7th round guys, especially even some of the 4th, 5th round guys, but more specifically the 6th, 7th round guys. But let's get into the last pick because, again, we traded our 4th round pick away to the Chargers. So Joe Tippmann's still there. There's 0 chance that's happening. Christopher Smith out of Georgia, solid option. Matthew Bergeron out of Syracuse is a good option as well. And Daiyan Henley, I'm really bad with name pronunciation, but probably butchering that name. But Daiyan Henley out of Washington State, linebacker, and one of the top players available that is realistic because some of these guys will not be here at a position of need. I really think that makes sense. And just a quick overview on Henley. Again, went to Washington State, about 6'2", 232 pounds, and had 54 solo tackles, 4 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles and an interception, all over the place. And I mean, the production's there. The only thing is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. So had the extra year of eligibility, I guess, and he probably redshirted a year. But 6 years is crazy. So he's got to be like 23, and Ron Rivera likes that. So that's one thing I would like about Henley is how he would probably come in more of a finished product and come in more ready than some of these other guys. And I think that's an advantage for the Commanders. We don't want another super big project at linebacker like Jamin Davis, and I think that would make sense. Some of his measurables, they have him at 6'1", 225 pounds, and 40-yard dash. That's very good. Pretty good for a linebacker. And 35-inch vertical, which is solid. And you guys can see some of his strengths: plays fast, rangy, above average length, core special teams traits and experience, and then weaknesses: below average instincts for play development, high cut with leg initial movements, and there's some other things as well. So overall, I am really happy with how this mock draft went. Traded back, got some more assets, got a very good cornerback in Deonte Banks, got a good interior offensive lineman in John Michael Schmitz, got a weapon to add to the offense in Luke Musgrave. Maybe that means Logan Thomas gone, who knows? And then added a linebacker in Henley out of Washington State. So helped out our quarterback and filled the really only holes we have on defense. I like this draft. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and peace.